Anybody, any complaint, any problems that we should work on? Getting logged on or understanding the assignment? Silence. That means you're all doing.
Yeah, I feel like I'm getting the hang of it. It seemed like there was quite a bit of material with the when I was getting into the in organic and inorganic chemistry. I was just like, oh wow, I'm wondering if it's the same amount of load for every week. But
Yeah, about.
okay, good to know.
It's definitely, and I'm trying to figure out, how to structure the Zoom classes because I'm looking at the material for this week, and want to kind of preview that. I think that's probably how I can help along a little, because it is an 16-week course put in 6 weeks.
Like,
So it is definitely, and it's fairly similar. The material is pretty much the same. And so you definitely get loaded with material. What I want to make sure you focus on is like you listen to the videos, either one, look through the booklets. And by the way, there is one series of 5 booklets of number 1 that are upside down printed. That is my oopsies. I caught 3 of them. If you have one of them, speak up. Don't hesitate. I'll ship you a new one. I'm so sorry about that.
What's going on tonight?
I usually check them all, but tonight to check the back up.
So RTK is open, but not very good. Yes, so we're going to
Oh, that's me. Okay, great. So I want to preview the week in these Zoom calls of what's coming up at you guys, but I also want to make sure I have you, for the most part, try to use this as an experience. You watch the videos, you go through the booklet, you do the quizzes, and then we do the labs. The first chapter had a lab where you label stuff and then you upload it. And then we have these discussion forums for a few chapters. And then as we get into the skull and the musculoskeletal system, we don't have discussion groups. We mostly have labeling, coloring terms on term lists, on the coloring exercise thing that you got in this handout here with the anatomy stuff, and video listening, lecture, and then quiz work. And so that's sort of the format of after the first test of how we're mostly going through it. And then you have a few exercises like a posture evaluation, an ergonomic station evaluation, just some things that try to tie the material to the real world a little bit of how we can integrate it. And then you have worksheets with those. But I want to make sure that, for example, in these sessions, I focus you also on what is tested, because we do have a few tests in this class, 3 of them. They're not cumulative tests. They're all just standalone tests, but they are basically quizzes, they're timed quizzes, and you can't take them multiple times. You can take it one time. Now, some people come up with are stressed out because they missed the due date of these chapters that we're working on now. Do not feel bad about missing a due date. The due dates in a class like that, to me, are suggestions. They are not hard due dates. The hard due date is the end of the class due date. That is one I cannot change. So by the end of the class, the semester, I think it's the 22nd of July, the canvas just closes, and I have a few days where you can still send me lab stuff and upload it to my phone and text it to me, and I can give you credit. But the quizzes once in a while I can help a little bit. If somebody misses 1 or 2 quizzes, we just do it over the email at the end. I have a few days leeway, but the tests I do not have any leeway with that. But the due dates are not hard due dates. Having said that, if you catch yourself and you feel like, hey, I got this power going on, let me work ahead, you know, you go ahead whenever it catches you, because this is a fast class. You got to kind of try to go with your interest if you find it interesting. You know, I often find if I work myself into material, it gets more interesting after a while, and then I can sort of ride that wave for a while, and then it sort of flattens out. So if you can catch that wave, you know, go with the flow and do as much as you can ahead of the curve. I do have the tests are timed. They are like the first test is, I think, from the 28th to the 4th of July when it's open. I do have some ability to open that a little later in case you're like coming back from somewhere or so, but I cannot open it earlier. But I would like, you know, if you can hold on to those dates as well as you can, that would be great, because again, we just don't want to get caught up at the end where it's like so much to do and we're all overwhelmed with it. But then the second test will also be, you know, be stacked right after that. So we're already starting to work with muscle and bones this week. But let me, so yeah, so you got any questions with that, Errol? We just kind of started the class with, you know, your questions, sort of.
Oh yeah, no, I'm good, thanks.
You okay? You okay? Okay. Yeah, and again, if anything has a question coming up, just speak into me. Don't hesitate. It's different than the regular classroom because I can't see your hand, especially if I'm sharing the screen. I'm just gonna kind of keep working and walking and talking. And if I do ask a question, if somebody can be so kind and just respond, then I can keep moving. It's a little bit of the weird thing with the Zoom when you don't see each other, but you know, we'll make it usually work pretty well. So as we work through this last week material, so if I get the idea that you guys understand the format of watching videos, going through the booklet, then doing the quizzes, then doing the understanding discussion forum where you also read other people's responses and respond back to them. And then in the first chapter, we had a lab sort of coloring exercise. And so then that's what comes back later on. So those are pretty much the main components that happen in every module. And then in some modules, we have the health kit integration work. So we're working on the lifestyle. Most of you guys are doing really great. Yeah, and always give me feedback with that as well, so we can make it better and a little bit more, you know, useful. And a lot of you guys also turned in the food label analysis already. Is that, do you guys have any questions with that, or that felt pretty straightforward?
Yeah, I was a little bit confused. Are we filling out the card every week? Is one card for every week, or?
Are you talking about the lifestyle assessment now, or the food label?
I think in the food label there was also like a little card for the nutrition section.
Well, the food label is this, right?
Yeah.
Where on the back side, you got these tables to label foods down of from, you know, reading the label on the box. So kind of reading that part on your food box of things you eat, like chips or, you know, things that have a label on them. Just sort of get an idea of what's in the food and what does what mean. So I do that as a, and so you only do that once. You do that for 5 foods, and you do that only once. And once you're done, you just take a picture of the section here where you do writing, and you upload that as the assignment. When it comes to the card, I'm not sure if you're referring to the card that's in the lifestyle assessment, which is this little card. Is that what you're referring to?
Oh, yes, that's what I'm referring to.
Okay, so that card is, you fill it out in the beginning, you answer the questions in the lifestyle assessment, those 7 factors, and you circle it here. Just sort of how you feel about it. There's not anything accurate needed, or it's not a right or wrong answer. But then what you do is you implement some change. And what we do for 2 weeks, we just do the walking, the water drinking, or the meditation, and you're in one of those groups. And you indicate each day you do that. You indicated you did it, and then you write a little bit how it made you feel. You know, like meditation. I don't know, I fell asleep, or I felt calmer, or the water, my skin started feeling clearer, or actually I felt less snacky because I felt full because of the water, or I peed all out because I drank all of it at night, or, you know, whatever comes up as a sense, as a feeling, which is also what you're texting the group, you know, and you do that 5 days out of the week, and we do it 2 weeks. And so here there's 3 weeks. So in a regular semester, we do a third week, but we don't do that. Just do 2 weeks this week, and then next Monday, you guys can then take a picture of the next Monday or Sunday, or, you know, after 2 weeks, you redo this 7 lifestyle thing and see if anything changed, you know, and if you felt a little better, or so, you know, it's a little fast, but it could. And then you take a picture of the front and from the back, and you upload that, and then that's your lifestyle assessment in what you turn in for that exercise.
Okay.
And for me,
Okay, thank you.
Oh, good. You're welcome. Yeah. And, you know, it's like we're doing water or we're doing walking, and only for 2 weeks. I'm not expecting a great change on the lifestyle self-assessment, but you're also having the science of how change can happen, of how we can make it in things that we want to change, and you can make longer term. So I wanted to give you that knowledge that felt useful to when I you know, read about it.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions to the health kit, the lifestyle assessment, food label analysis at this point? If not, let's make sure go to mute if you're not talking. Let me actually do that, because I'm not sure she's there. Hold on. Where is my mute button? There you go. All right, let me do the sharing here. And so what I want to make sure you are aware of, this is not what I want to be at. Oops. Where did I go? Oh, all the way here. So as we work through the modules, the first 4, so the first one, hopefully most of you guys did all right. We did the video listening, the quiz questions, some discussions, and then we started working on the lifestyle assessment, and then you do the food labeling. And then we get into the chemistry, and so that was sort of last week. And then this week, I want you to, if you haven't started yet, I want to make sure you go through the cell chapter, and then the food label is right here that we just talked about. Go through the cell chapter. We have another question. These are the quiz questions, then another understanding concept. And then the tissue chapter is really shorter. We don't have the discussion anymore. We just have questions on quiz questions after the videos. And then after that, we have the first exam. So the first exam will be the material up to that. And in that module, you have a test review, and I want to make sure you print that out. Because in that test review, I discuss everything that's on the test. Oh, look at that. I haven't even revised that. This is old. This is in Moodle. This is not, we're not doing Moodle anymore. So don't discard this first part of here. But here are all the things that are on the test. So these are the bullets, and there's describing a little bit what they do. And so you have what's on the test from the introduction chapter, from the chemistry chapter, and from the cell chapter, and then from the tissue chapter. And so those are 4 pages. So I want you to print that out and use that as a guide when you work through it to understand what's on the test. So you don't memorize everything, because this is too much stuff to memorize everything. So I want to also be clear about that. Anatomy is a lot about memorization. And as that's important, but it's also layered. So like this time you learning some terms, and some of that is for you guys. Some of you is very familiar already. Some of you guys is brand new, and we're going through terms that you want to try to memorize. And I have a list of terms that I do that with. But besides the terms, we also have concepts of like how something works, for example. How does a brain work? What's a nerve impulse, and things like that. And for the most part of those concepts, I want you to focus on understanding those concepts. not just memorizing those concepts. And then once you understand those concepts, I want you then, you know, you go through the material, and then I want you to go through the through the test reviews of whatever this first one is, you know, the one right here. I want you to go through the test review then, and then that's the stuff I need you to memorize. However, it's open book tests. So you can use all the material you want on the tests. I'm not going to do any honor log or anything like that. I'm not going to worry about that. It's a learning experience. And so from that perspective, again, I'm trying to bring the material to what I find is essential, which is understanding things. And then on the memorization, we have to, you know, be a little gentle with our heads, because that's what's going to create anxiety. And also doing the test, I want to make sure I give you an hour and a half for the test. That's usually plenty of time. If you have any disability stuff, if you need more time, you let me know. I can add more time in the background. I do not want those to be the problems. I want these to be educational experiences that you learn as much as you can about this topic in this short period. And then next semester you can, you know, go to a higher level if you feel like it, or need to for your profession, or move on to the next topic that you get.
Excuse me?
Yes.
I have a quick question about the tests. How are they going to be formatted? Like, will they be multiple choice or rewrite?
Good point. So the first test is gonna, thank you so much. The first test is gonna be multiple choice or true false. So let me just go to that and give you a little preview. It's basically actually already how the quizzes are. So it's quiz format. Look at that, it's getting a little slow. There we go, test 1. So look at that, make sure you take good notes. You can get the first question right. So so this is actually my view, and now, but this is then what you're going to see. So you get the question. So it's a true false format, or it becomes then a multiple choice format as we go further on in the test. Does that make sense? So it's like
yes.
The quiz. So we've already learned that from the quiz perspective of how we do that test. And then the second test, though, let's take that to segue into the second part of the class, which is when we get to the bones and to the muscles. So we have this, and for this week, I already want you to start working on the skull, on the facial muscles, and to work, you know, do the lectures and do the questions with that, and start working on the labeling. Even though I understand this is material for the next test, however, the way that the second material is organized is that you have videos that you access through the booklets, and then you have the quiz questions again like you had before, and then from here we go into label and coloring exercises. And so in your handouts you have this package in your materials, and in there you had that first page that we did, that you already did, or most of you already did, and then you have a next package in there, says up there it says term list 1, and so you want to take that out, and that package is a big list of terms, 4 columns. It seems a little overwhelming now, but it's not that many. We're gonna work through that. And then after that term list, you have these sheets where we have pictures of, you know, the skull here. We have pictures of the face for facial muscles, and then we have bones, and further down we have muscles. And what you do here is you label the terms from the term list on these pictures. You only have to label the term 1 time, even though there's multiple places you can, or there's even labels. You don't have to worry about the labels. I just went to Google and found all the pictures that I found were like the most useful to label things on and to understand the material. And then what you do is, so you label the terms from the term list 1 time on that list, and then you color the area that those terms pertains to. And some of the labs will have some questions behind it, like in the muscles, I ask you, what does this muscle do? And then you fill out that and write that down. And when you're finished, you take a picture of what you did, and you upload it to Canvas, and then that's your turn-in work for the anatomy portion, sort of, of the class, for the stuff that we need to learn terms, the terminology stuff. And so you start going through this week, go through the skull if you can, facial muscles, and the joints and the axial skeleton, which is sort of the trunk part. And so that's through module 7 is what I have here. And then after that, we pick it up in the next following week. And so then when we get to the test for this section, at that point, let me just talk about that briefly so you understand where we're going with that. As we prepare for that test, in that test 2 module, can you still see my canvas? Anybody?
Yes, you're good.
Okay, good. So in that test 2 module, you then will have videos that I describe all the terms on module. So that's some place where people go. And for example, if you study, you can say, hey, I need to study for this test. I need to know where these terms are on the modules. And so let me just watch these videos a few times. So that's one way of studying that. Like, after you've gone through the homework, for example, you familiarize with your terminology. You don't have to, but that's one place where some people, I remember this one lady, she's like, yeah, I'm doing housework and I got this on the TV and I just listen to it when I do folding the clothes and stuff. And then at the end of the day, I know the terms. So, stuff like that, some people utilize. And then I have in there, I also have the term list. If you press on that term list thing, you get back a term list that you already have in your handouts that you print out again in case you lose it or something like that. And then, oh, now I went to the wrong place. Hold on.
Would you recommend that, I know you said for the test review and prep, it's helpful, you want us to understand the concepts like more as concepts as opposed to just memorizing terms. Would you recommend making flashcards off of like the test review concepts or off of the term list? Which do you think people have found more helpful?
Very, very good question. Do you see my videos again here?
Yes.
So stay on there. Let me just finish my thought, and then I want to make sure we talk about that. That's okay. A very important point.
Thank you.
Up this page here, the last thing I wanted to point to you is these pictures used on test 2. You see that over here, pictures used on test 2. If you press on that, you go and you get a PDF document that is pictures that I've taken of the modules that we use for the test right when COVID started. So they're not all that necessarily that great. And I might be missing some things, but this list, if you print that out, for example, or have it on your phone or somewhere as a download and have the term list and have the videos, you're gonna get very close to how the test is structured and what I use for the test. So you're not gonna get surprised of like, oh my God, I've never seen this part of the body from this perspective or on this model or something like that. And so this is sort of how these look. You see these pictures, right? Anybody?
Yes, we can see them. Thank you.
Yes.
I just don't know. Sometimes I don't know if you see what I see, so I have to ask. And so that's that's how I think you want to prepare for that test, because when it comes to that exam, let me go to that real quick, and then we'll talk about the flashcards. So don't forget that thought, Erica. Make sure you get back to me if I miss it. Then we get to when we do that test. How that's structured is that you actually have your term list and you will be seeing pictures. And so that's where it takes a moment. Oh no, that's the wrong test. Hold on. Oh boy. I can't give you everything away. Let's see. What did I do with this? That's test one. Here we go. There we go. Muscle and bones. So this is similar to the quiz, but you have to write in the term. So it's loading. It's going to take a second. I actually do these tests most ideally on my phone that have pictures, and Chrome is really good, and Safari is not always the greatest. But if you have issues with that, just let me know and we'll work around it. You know, what you never want to do is you don't want to freak out about these things. If a test like this test, you have to write in terms. So see this, I show you a picture. What's this term? This landmark here. I use landmarks and bones and muscles. I use only these 3 questions. And then I have a video that describes it in a video, like 15-second video. And then you write in what is this term. And you copy that from the term list as well as you can. And you know, try to make as little typos as possible. Because the thing is, then when you turn this test in, a lot of things come back as wrong because you got some little typo in somewhere, or maybe I didn't lay exactly the answer behind it that that you've written, even though you're completely accurate. And so make sure you don't freak out about if, like, all of a sudden you get a low score on test 2. Just because I haven't looked after it yet, because usually people drop their score goes way up in that test. So I want to make sure I say that many times because it could be a little bit nerve-wracking. I just took an anatomy class myself, and I was nerve-wracked by taking exams just because it's a test. It just, you know, and I should know this stuff. It's like whatever, but you know. So we want to make it as smooth as possible, and we want to, you know, learn a lot of stuff, but not try to diminish the anxiety as well as we can. So that means you reach out to me if you have to feel like you need to talk, or you need to have some support, or you don't understand something, or you can't find something. I just ship you, generally speaking, I just text you a PDF of something if you can't find something, or I messed up somewhere. Yeah, that also means if I forget to upload a recording, you text me and say, where is the recording? I need it. So, you know, please be also in my face and hold me accountable, because it's a lot of stuff. It's a lot that goes on in these classes.
Can you actually email me the personal assessment? You sent it as a text, but then it opens up in the Dropbox.
Yeah, which one was that again? Oh, the last
yeah.
Yeah, can you put the email in the chat?
Yes.
That would be great. Yeah, I could do that. And then
sorry, I agreed to stay over at work, and I forgot I had class today.
Oh, that's okay. You're doing fine. You're doing good. And maybe, or even text me that thing, because what I want to do is I want to go now with Erica going to the flashcards. Oh, that's it. Okay, I got it. Sorry, real quick.
All right, thank you.
Down real quick. I'm like gonna forget it later on. Okay, good. So I want to go with this flashcard. So what I would do for this first test, I would make flashcards of the bullet points of the test review. That's what I would do. So I would go into the test review, and actually I pulled it up over here, and I would make flashcards of all these things: anatomy, you know, studies body parts, physiology studies how to function, body functions. What you have to do then is you know, on one side you want to put like anatomy equals body parts, physio is how it works, how it functions, how it works, right? I would maybe word it in my own way a little bit. That's what I do, but you don't have to do. I just do that for myself, and I study something so I know I'm not just blindly copying, and I'm not even thinking about what I'm copying. And because I'm ADD, so it happens to me very fast. But everybody's different that way. And then on the other side of the card, I would say, you know, what is anatomy? What is physiology? And so, you know, and then basically, yeah, what is anatomy? Body parts. What's physiology? How they work together, how they function together. And so I will go, if you go with all these bullets and make flashcards, I can guarantee you're already halfway to taking the test, because you have to slow everything down. And I would make that as you go through the chapters, as like your last thing of doing the chapter. That will probably be maybe a good way, because then you're not overwhelmed. It's like all of a sudden it's 4 pages of having to do that with. And again, it's a lot of work. So if you can't do that, if you don't have enough time to do the flashcards, still go with covering up a line, or maybe put a question here, what's what, and covering it up and just learning it that way, and go over it a few times that way to know you're putting it as much in your long-term memory as you can. The way we build long-term memory, I think we talked briefly about that. Now let me go right back up here. We talked briefly about that first time, up in here, study tips, study tools. I think it's in study tools. Yeah, see this one, this concept. Neurons that fire together, wire together. So when you study something and you think about it, you create a nerve pathway. That's a nerve pathway here. These are nerve cells. And then as you remember what you were thinking about, these nerve cell pathways, they create strengthening pathway. They call them reverberating pathways, and they feed back to strengthen this pathway that was created. And so the more you do that, the stronger that pathway goes. And what they call that from neurons firing like one time to neurons wiring, like it's a really strong pathway. It's a really good routine. It's the same concept as routines. It's the same concept in pretty much all of neuroplasticity, is that we get used to what we focus on. Is that gratitude? We got to make us happier. Is that how bad everything is? We end up being more unhappy. We also use it to study and in anything in life. I mean, it's an overarching concept in neurology is what I'm trying to say with that. And so I think making flashcards from these bullet points is definitely positive. Then for the second test, what I would do in terms of flashcard there, maybe you go more and maybe have a blank of the homework that we're doing already and just have labels that go to structures that we need to do. Maybe make a copy of that if you can before you label it. Or write a line and then label it on the side, and have you take a picture, you can upload that. But then to study, you can cover up the term and you can get yourself memorizing it that way, or you can print out the test pictures that I showed you under the test review for test 2, and you can label those because those are the modules that we use for the tests. Also in booklet 2 and booklet 3, which is what we are working on there, in the back here, like right in here, you have a few different links, and one of them in the middle bottom row is muscle flashcards, and that gets you to a PDF that is just drawings of muscles that you can cut out and put on a flashcard on one side and ask you, what's that muscle, for example. And so you could study like that too, or just leave it on the page and just use it as another tool to memorize those things. And as I say that, I also want to make sure, don't overwhelm yourself. You don't have to do all of those things. And if you want to talk about what you should do, text me and we can talk about what would be useful for you to do, depending on your study skills, on your study strategies, on your preferences, how your brain functions. Like some people like to have visuals, like over here in the top row, what I have is cadaver videos. So if you're good with seeing cadaver stuff, these are really cool to understand anatomy better. There's anatomy cadaver videos. This is regional. So you have a video on shoulder, for example, that goes through all the structures in the shoulder. And then these are specific for muscles because I'm a muscle guy. I dissected all videos out and made small little, 15 seconds to a minute and a half maybe of specific muscles, and that gives you another visual to understand that structure as we learn it. And again, if you're visual, that might be very helpful. If you're not visual, I don't know, maybe not. You just have to see what works best for you. And then these down here are just some of my favorite muscle. They're my favorite muscle chart. It's just all the muscles we need to know is on one page. And I put that on an iPad and I can zoom in, because on a phone or iPad, you can zoom in, which is kind of cool. And it helps me to, remember when I memorize. I have to memorize where muscles attach on the bones very specifically for my work when I stimulate muscles as a body worker. And so I use that myself to be as specific as possible. And I'm just sharing those resources with you as much as I can. So again, don't feel like you have to do all of them, but they are there for you to tap into. The other thing is what I showed you last week as well is the atlases that you actually do have access at least this time. I don't know how many semesters I'm going to have these available, because these atlases in here on the student orientation down in here, you got these anatomy atlases that are, you know, these are high end. These are 700-800 page books. And like, for example, this one here, the Rowan Ukochi one, is fantastic. This is one of the ones that I learned the most with. And this is a book with, look at that, 560 pages. This is a book that is basically photographs of cadavers, and then they label them. So look at, go a little fast. Oh wait, that might be a little big, bro. Sorry. But see all of these. These are labeled with numbers of structures and muscles and things, and then down in here you got a label that shows you what is it. Very specific. So you can also utilize something like that to, you know, make a project out of finding a muscle or so that you understand it better. Frank Netter is very popular book, very well described. This atlas is also very well done. It's you know, very similar, but a little more graphic, a little more specific, I think, a little bit more Germanic, a little bit. It's hard to explain that. Every country has a little bit of different ways of doing these things. So check these out as well to help your studies if you feel interest or have the time. And even if it's later on, you're like, hey, Doc, can you ship me that link for that atlas, because I can't access it no more, because once the class is finished, they take it off for you guys to access. I'm always here having it. I mean, if I don't have it no more, then I can't give it to you. But as long as I do, it's an easy link for me to ship something like that. All right. Anyway, so that's so far where I'm kind of going with the the second part and also the tests. Now, at this point, you guys have any questions? Are you all lost? Or are you all good?
No questions. I'm here.
Is that I'm lost or I'm good?
I'm good.
Okay. Well, and you know, if you're not good, you just text me. And if I don't respond within, I go to bed real early and wake up real early. So if I past 6 o'clock, you don't get an answer back. But if I don't respond until the next morning at 9:10, you shoot me another text. Hello, I'm here. Because maybe I had 30 of them and I forgot one. So don't feel bad of being buggy with me, especially in a Speedy Gonzalez course like this. Because I don't want to hold you too long. I want to make sure you spend your time wisely. And, you know, we're skipping some of these integration talking exercises, like how did you feel about drinking water and blah, blah. We can do that on the text a little bit, or we can definitely talk more about it. I just don't want to take too much of you guys's time trying to get through this class. What else was there? Yeah, and then what I want to do next week, besides finishing up with questions for the first section of you know, through the tissues, as we get to the skull and to the first portion of the skeletal system, I'll also then start doing quizzes a couple of times during these sessions. And so we start practicing a little bit for the test as well during the class. We have a couple of classes we can do that with before we have to sort of go with these tests then. So I just, you know, start with some of that terminology and the first terms, and then next week we can sort of hammer on those a little bit and get you moving forward with the next part already. Good. Anything else you guys have? No? I hear silence means no. So in that respect, we can close it out. We don't have to go too long. Again, you have something come up, reach me out. Oh, one thing I wanted to say, although it might not work out because it's too fast of a course, but I do, if people want to get together and Zoom together. You see here, let me do the student view. Under the student view here, you can see one of these links. It says Zoom study group. You click on it and it goes to a study Zoom that I created that's open 24/7, and you guys can just meet up there if you feel like it. Not that you have to. It's a little fast, but you know, it's definitely useful. You know, maybe if somebody has some issues with the studying, you reach out in the groups that we established with the, you know, with the lifestyle groups, and maybe find somebody. Or if you feel like you need me to help you a little, if you would like me to help you a little bit, get a few people together, that would also be okay. But that's a place we can sort of do a little study groups things. I kind of try to make it, you know, more of a mandatory type thing a little bit as it's a regular semester, but with 6 weeks, you know, I want to make sure we tap into whatever is most conducive to you guys. All right, good. With that, I think we can close it out. Any last thoughts? No? All right. Have a good night, everyone.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Dr.
Good
M.
night. Thank you.
And remember, I'm only a text away.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is it online?
Hello. Hey, Professor.